Good evening, everybody. So I've been waiting a little bit of time to do this video, and I decided to wait around 2 weeks to do a one-on-one comparison of Becky's show, Supreme Queens, and obviously Local Queens um, as well. So why am I doing this? Why am I doing a sort of back and forth, looking at their numbers, looking at what you know made each individual thing, I guess, more successful, or why one is at an advantage where the other one is at a clear disadvantage, right? So obviously we're going to start off with, we're going to go down the line. So we have Becky right here, and then right here we have Queen. Sorry, so clearly, as we can see right here, they have at least a total revenue, at least from what Playboy, and this is from 7 days ago, that was revenue of, let me see if we can do month in that. Nope, that's not what I wanted. So either way, they have a total revenue. Oh boy. So here we go. We have a total revenue as currently as we speak of $5 or 5,500, right? So we're gonna probably, let's round that up. Yeah, let's keep it at 5,500. And then obviously now the total revenue of Queens. So Queens has been around longer than, let's say, Becky. If we look at their 7 days revenue, last couple days compared to that of Queens, you can tell that they're the clear tick to tack of, you can say that the tick attack of the last 7 days in Becky's show, Supreme Queen, is a lot higher than there is in the case of Queen. Now, mind you, there's something important we need to talk about. The $2,000 they're getting now, it hasn't been a full month, so probably, let's say, in 1 month, right, I will come back and do a even more extension coverage of them, right, adding up some numbers on both ends and a little bit of viewers. Plus, on top of that, if you look here, hopefully it shows it. Yes, it does. Their subscriber numbers and viewership. Though their viewership is high, that's more like, I get that the viewership is more about post stuff, right? So after the video, after the stream is over, people go back and watch the same thing here. Now, subscriber number, in terms of number, Becky did once try to say that, well, her show or her particular channel has double the subscribers of Queen. The thing is that I think subscribers mostly matter if you're doing videos, and when it's coming to streaming, you need much more concurrent and more continuous viewership. So you may have higher subscribers, but you don't really do video. But I think if she was to do, let's say, more videos and more stuff of that nature, she would get probably a lot more view and probably get more ad revenue and much more traction because they're doing video. One of the things I never really liked about the LCU is that they never really did videos, right? They never really did video. Now, from what I understand, Kim does that. It had to do with something with how, I don't remember. He explained it of, from what I understand and the way Keem started explaining it, and what the reason they don't do video or they don't upload video, it has to do with something with, like, it messes up with the algorithm. So if your channel is primarily focusing on live, and messes up with channels that are doing live. So if your channel is strictly doing live, videos will mess it up. But it's weird because in my head, wouldn't those videos actually attract more? Or it could just be like, cutting down the streams, and then you have to get an editor, somebody who could come in, edit off the cursive, and then can make the actual video a lot enjoyable. And then you have to be able to condense like hours, right? Like, so usually like 2 hours of stuff down to like a video as format, right? Think of like breaking bandwidth in this situation. Now let's actually look at the days number, which I think is even more important. So we're only gonna look at the numbers from to the 17 to now, and this is also gonna apply to the 17 till now. Because everything before the 17, I don't think it would be fair. Plus, I think the 16 and the 15, they had two different hosts, and I believe it was the 17 was a Saturday. I believe the 17 was a Tuesday or a Monday. Somebody can correct me if anything. I'll look it up right now as we speak. The 17th was on a Tuesday, so I guess that Monday people were curious and kept donating. But when we look at the 17th, I think the reason why the numbers were low compared to the other days was, I think, just the way Becky came in, right? Because I think Becky wasn't coming in hot and heavy, right? Plus, I think she streamed at the same time as Queen, so she took a lot of viewership from Queen. Now, I think the reason why donations were low was because a lot of people weren't sure if Becky was going to go back to the LSU. Remember, the last time she did this, she went back to the LSU right away, right, a couple days after. So I think there was less donation because people were not sure. Plus, I think the stream only lasted, I think, an hour and a half, 2 hours. So there's that. If she probably would have went longer, I think this number would have been a lot higher, right? And the reason why Queen's number was so extremely low is the people that probably typically would have donated to Queen were donating to Becky, and a lot of them were probably saving up their money and more or less jumping ship. And you can see that very well, and it reflects heavily well when you look at here. That number, it was reflects it well. They had a boost of number. They had a major boost the next couple of days, particularly the Friday, because we know the 21st was a weekend stream. Because at Friday they got extremely drunk and they were drinking, they were taking shots, and Becky got sick. So it's one of the main reasons why the numbers on, say, Saturday was extremely low. Like, it was a very low energy show that day, and because Becky wasn't there, the people who, let's be real, a lot of the people who watched this show or Supreme Queens were watching because of Becky, right? And now when we look at on the other hand, that really reflects it. Now you may be asking why were there such low donations on Queens itself? I think it has to do with, first off, most of the people that would normally donate for Queens left Queens completely and went over to Becky, with a lot of heavy hitting donation. But at the same time, a lot of people who would normally, let's say, would support Queen probably waited it out. Right, they waited out a couple of days to see how things were going. Maybe the show was on the verge of dying, so why give your money to a show that was dying, right? When you would give it to a show, to at least a host that would recognize you better than, let's say, Tina. We'll get into viewership as well, and I'll eventually we'll get into my final thought. Now, when we get into the last couple days, which was this week, the donation on Queen's End, right, Monday, pretty low end, but I do know that we don't see the membership thing on here, so we're only gonna look at it. But I'm pretty sure that Becky got actually a crap ton of memberships if I remember carefully. I'm pretty sure either Roxy or Becky or somebody will probably start commenting and telling me the exact numbers of memberships, right? But again, when we look at it here, right, let's look at here. You see a good number. And I think if I was to be a betting man, I think their numbers would be, if they were doing a show every single day, because mind you, the end goal or every day end goal is around $500, right? They want $500 every day as a way to keep things operational, as a way for them to, as Becky would say, to not get a real job and focus everything on the online career. And I think as we speak, at least currently, there, at least right now, you never know how things can play out. Now, mind you, I want to say that so this was Friday. I think Friday was, it's when they get drunk, and when they get drunk, it's when they get a lot of donation. But the last other days, I believe from Monday to Thursday, it was mostly focused on, I believe it was, with Rox, I don't remember if Becky was there, because that would explain the low viewership, the low donation. But I actually think they had a lot of membership that exact Monday. Now, I think maybe some people thought, I don't know why. I think because a lot of people already spent their money on the days before. And mind you, a lot of people do get paid nowadays on a Wednesday. Some people get paid on a Tuesday even. and they were getting they were getting a lot of membership the last couple of days. That I will say very confidently that they were gaining a lot of membership the last couple of days. When we look at Queen, only the last 3 days is where they were getting big donations, but there was a lot of challenges. There was a lot of weird stuff they were doing. Right. Now, you can easily say that one of the draws of Queen was Becky, and it's 100% true. But why is that, right? And the numbers are reflecting it's because of Tina herself. I don't like Becky, and I have made this clear a number of times in videos. I made this very number of times on stream. I have also applied the same thing to Tina. But let's say hypothetically, if I wasn't somebody that didn't have I would say the disdain for both of them, I can easily see why somebody would go over to Becky and completely drop Tina. Unless you're like a hardcore AGP fan or somebody who really likes Tina, you are more likely to go over to Becky and Roxy because at least they at least see you as a person. Whether or not they're faking it, it's up to them, and really, we can debate on that all we want. But in the case of Tina, I think Tina does see a lot of her fans as numbers, right? Whether or not that's a good thing, it's up to you as well, as I said before, right? Whether one is faking and one is being honest or vice versa, I'll let you guys decide. I think it's a good brain exercise. I think also another reason is Tina, as we speak, is not very entertaining unless he is doing something. If Tina is just sitting on the couch doing nothing and just talking and yelling, she is not very entertaining as a person. Now let's look at some views, right? Particularly live views, which I think is more interesting when we compare, again, Tic Tac to, let's say, Becky and Queens. If my internet ever speeds up, I don't know why it's acting like this. Storms. Now, I think this is something we can look at interesting, right? Where we saw the 17, they had a 3,000, but the lowest were 24. Now, I do remember the views being quite high, right? But at the same time, the views on Becky were also high, right? I think the reason why both views were extremely high, first off, live had a very strong viewership, right? And so it was able to carry on. But also, I think it's because people weren't sure if this Becky stuff was going to be legit or real, and people were basically waiting how things were. Now, I do think one of the main reasons, I think Ben also said that the viewership was so high on their first stream, their first solo stream at least, was because they wanted to see the drama, they wanted to hear the Snoop. On Queen, they wanted to see if Tina got a new host. Maybe some people thought Savage was going to come in and replace Becky or somebody else, but that wasn't. And we saw a massive decline, big time. The numbers don't lie. It was a massive decline, even to the point where they even straight up said this show is dying or this show is failing, and what we can do to fix it. Now, the new co-host for Tina on Queen is, in my honest opinion, at least promising in the sense that she can at least fill in that Becky spot or that void. The problem is Tina herself is a big issue, right? Tina is her own worst enemy. Right? It's almost similar to the Dorps, where they're their worst enemy, where they could at least be more entertaining, or they could at least be more generous to their audience. That is not the case with Tina. And I got a 4 or 5 gateway timeout. Cool. But again, we'll get back into that in a second. Give me 1 minute, ladies and gentlemen. I have no clue why that was acting up. I really don't know why. As I said before, because okay, let me cite real fast. That was weird why I got a timeout, even though we can see the numbers. Though I am very tired, so maybe that could add a factor to it, and maybe that's a sign for me to go to sleep soon. Okay, but nevertheless, let's look at the numbers at Supreme Queen, and they have been steadily. They drop from 1,100 to 400 to 700. 1100 to 700 was probably around like a 400 difference, right? It's a 400 viewership at their height, where at the lowest it's around 300, and it really showed. Now, I think the reason why it was low on Friday, on both in mind, this is a Saturday. I think the reason why is it's a Saturday, so Saturday streams are very different. But I think the reason why they were so low on a Friday, usually people are out more on Friday, and this was mostly about. I think a lot of people wanted a proper show. It was usually Fridays back in Queens and Milker was more heavily focused on drinking and smoking. It was more about being paid to get wasted, which is kind of degenerate in my honest opinion. Now, when we look at the 23rd, wait, I am very, don't wait. Thursday, no, wait, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. No, I lied. I'm stupid. Cancel what I said. This right here, the 21st, was a solo stream for Roxy, and that's why viewership was low. Let's also explain what the live. Now, it was this stream I'm thinking about. I don't know why my brain. I had it right here, but I could not add it here. Sorry, that was my fault. I'm very tired. Now, let's look at the last couple days, right? So here, the 23rd to 28th. So this is the Monday to Friday. And same thing when we look at the 23rd to 28th and their viewership. It has been a very steep decline, but I believe it was Monday or Tuesday when we got the new co-host, Guinea. I think she was already here a couple days ago, but I think this is Monday when she really started, and the viewership went down pretty hard. But at the same time, I also noticed something when I was looking at the viewership live. There's a difference. One of the things about Playboy and these different websites is they don't show you the live number as they are going every minute to minute. Where I think Queen's number were a steady decline. Supreme Queen has this weird sporadicness. I have screenshots. I already talked about it a few times. That there was random sporadicness. I even had it on live. Believe it or not, I even showed the screenshot on live. That the numbers on Supreme Queens were very sporadic. Some of them were going high, some of them were going low. To the point that some of the streams had numbers below 300, even down right into the 200 mark. Low 300, higher 200s. I'm not sure if it's something related to YouTube or maybe somebody is botting them. Now, I am not, well, it doesn't really matter because I already accused them of botting. Grace Thorpe, ironically enough, can back me on that. But since I already said it, I do think in a way maybe they're botting or someone else is coming in and botting. But if I'm wrong, then I am wrong. And it is what it is. But we'll never know until we see what it's like behind the scenes in YouTube. Now, the only reason why I say it's botting, and maybe the real answer probably is people are going back and forth between Queens and Milkers, Queens and Supreme Queen, and they wanted to see what's both going on. So maybe there's a spike in numbers in 1 second, but then the number go back down. It can also be possibly has to do with YouTube even, and it can relate to YouTube having this, 1 minute the numbers are high and the next minute the numbers are low, and then it goes up and down, going up and down. So it could be more along the lines of two things going on. One, people are going in and out of the shows, right? People are dropping their shows or they're tuning in back and forth, maybe hoping there's some little drama, but nothing really happening. The Chudmin, right? The Chudmin, nothing ever happens. And then when we look back, and then you can even say that something's weird going on with YouTube, because I think that is something that is going on YouTube that is probably beyond our understanding or control. We can say that like maybe they're working on something and that has to relate with streaming and algorithm, and maybe that's why those numbers are being sporadic. Don't know, and in the end of the day, I can simply say they're botting. But even if I, show the receipts of me screenshotting the numbers going sporadically all over the place, many people may not buy that and can simply say that people are tuning in 1 second and YouTube doesn't count that. And I think the reason that may be more likely true is I've seen that in my own personal streams where the number 1 minute I'll have somewhere like 15 viewers, the next minute I'll have 25 viewers, right? I had in my current stream, I noticed that I'll have around the average of 20 viewers, right? but then it would go up to like 27, 28, maybe like a bit of a 30, and then it goes right back down. Could be something relating to YouTube and how algorithms are working. And if that's the case, then that actually makes more sense. But I want to believe that more because I want to be a lot more fair rather than simply saying they're botting, and maybe that's not exactly the case. Now, let's get into my thoughts of all of this. My final thoughts. All right. Yeah, and this is just me shooting the shit, me just saying whatever. Right. No, nobody needs to take this serious if they don't have to. Now let's do it with Queens first because I think that's a lot more fair. What can Queen do to fix their numbers and get their donations? Really, it has to do with two things. One, Michael is an important factor in Queens and how people gauge, right? Michael is very good at least outlining and creating a base script that they can follow that can generate views. What makes it a lot more fake. Two, well, actually, let me get back to the point one. Let me finish that up. I think because of the way Michael does things, it really brings in the view. It really brings in people, and people, whether they know it's scripted or not, they still stay there and watch. It's sort of knowing that wrestling is fake, but for that moment, you suspend your realism. And I think a lot of people are like that more. If anything, I think more people are like that, whether they're willing to admit it or not. It's sort of how, like, when you go to a music concert, you're willing to suspend your moment of reality. In reality, you're just sitting there watching a bunch of people play music. But because the way humans are as creatures and we enjoy the romantic, we make it out more to be. It's like when, like, let's say your boomer grandpa talked about how they went to an Aerosmith concert and how to them it was like a religious experience. In reality, it's just a bunch of people who are extremely high on drugs playing music, right? A good instance is when I went to a Father John Misty concert. I suspended my moment of realism and I enjoy myself and I let myself be sucked into the moment, that fantasy. Even though in reality, I was just watching a grown ass guy play folk music while I'm just sitting there, just suspending my moment of realism. That's how it is, and that's just the truth. The second point that may fix Queens is Tina needs to stop bitching and complaining and stop blaming people, and people need to be willing to confront her. If Tina thinks that she's being dogpile and that she's whatever, then let her quit. Who cares? Queen may actually be better off as a show if Tina quits. It's Tina is gonna play this game of, oh, we need the support, and then blaming her audience and just picking fights with her audience, like in the case of ETX. Well, you at that point you do deserve to lose your audience. Like, you can't be doing that, right? If you feel slighted because somebody else is in a different Discord or a different show, just keep it to yourself, or maybe like have a moment of venting, right? Just vent it out in private and people will probably understand that better. But straight up picking a fight in public does not make you look good. If anything, it makes you look bad, right? So, and I think the third thing is Ginny, or whatever her name is. I think she's actually a pretty good host, and I think she does a really good job in replacing the Becky role. I do like Ginny voice a lot more, but what I've seen and as what others have told me, she kind of had the similarities with Becky. Now I'm very biased in the sense that I made it very clear that I actually really do like Ginny or whatever her name voice much more than Becky, and I think that's actually a factor in me that makes me a little bit more biased to Ginny. But if it's just clearly the voice and we're removing it, then they're almost par to par. Though I think it's maybe because Ginny's a lot more older and a lot of people are more willing to tolerate an older woman or older guy for being perverted. I'll let you decide on that one. Now, in the case of Queens, I think in terms of money, as long as they can keep themselves afloat of $500 a day, even if they have to include membership in that $500, which they already did it once, but because they already hit the $500 mark, they didn't have to. I think as long as they're able to keep the $500 mark up, I think they would be okay. But in terms of viewership, how can they grow their viewership? I don't really know. As I watch Supreme Queen, I don't understand what I'm watching. It's just, it already made it very clear that it's like watching a bunch of middle-aged women in a crisis decide to create a podcast where they drink wine and just talk about nonsensical things. They may read the news, they may give opinion, they may talk about drama, right? Like mostly celebrity drama because it's very safe, and then they'll just, that's about it. Right, that's about it. They have other guests, right? Like Life of Ryan. I've never heard of him, but he's, I guess, like a vlogger. They have Savage. They may eventually have Ruby, yada yada yada. But I think as long as they can keep their numbers up above 400 into the 500 mark, like say 450 per stream, I think they actually would do extremely good, or at least for now keep themselves afloat. I think the real challenge is surviving the first month alone. I don't think it's the first week, but it's surviving the first true month. And I think the last couple of days, right, the last 2 weeks, show that they could, but the real challenge is the first month, the first week of the month, even. Because we do know that Local Live is going to take a 1 week break. That's the real challenge. That is where the real challenge is going to be. If they can able to monopolize and increase their viewership even by a little bit and gain a little bit of donation, I think they have a much more stronger chance of long-term survivability. But at the same time, if they don't capitalize that right then and there, then they will just plummet. In the end of the day, I'm not really sure how things are going to play out. But till then, God bless everybody. And good night, or good day, or good morning, whatever. Have a good day. God bless.